is president of the American University of Afghanistan, a private university in cooperation with Rana University. And what I would like to mention briefly is the benefits of the coronavirus shock to higher education, especially in developing countries. So since March, I've been working as a consultant to the Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research in the Republic of Iraq. And I have been training more than 900 faculty members in Iraq at universities throughout the country in how to adapt to first online education and currently to blended learning or hybrid education. And what I have seen is some dramatic changes that are all for the good. Professor Dr. Mustafa mentioned this as well, that what we are actually seeing is a transition in some very traditional societies from the lecture method of higher education teaching to the student-centered method of teaching. And so this actually is very beneficial for students. Now, there are certain prerequisites, as we know. The students have to have access to high bandwidth, adequate internet. They have to have a laptop. They have to have a smartphone. So students have to have some tools, and also the infrastructure has to be present. And so what we see is in developing countries like Iraq, the government has incentives to greatly upgrade the quality of the internet infrastructure. And this is actually good for the scientific advancement and the business advancement of the country, as well as the educational advancement. And what I've seen is that once you explain to faculty that actually this is not something to be regretted, but actually there's a huge opportunity to increase the benefits for students, then the faculty actually become quite excited. Of course, it's a huge learning curve, and any country that wants to support this transition from passive learning to active learning must make an investment in teacher training. Secondly, there has to be internet technology support. So you can't ask faculty members to master all aspects, of educational technology. They must have strong support from the university itself. So the IT support is really critical as well. Now, what are some of the benefits to students of online education or hybrid education? Well, the first thing we notice is that the faculty member becomes free to spend more time with students one-on-one and in small groups, because the faculty can record their lectures in advance, upload their lectures onto the internet. And I encourage universities to use a learning management system such as Moodle or Blackboard or Canvas to facilitate the educational process. And of course, that requires training as well, how to use the learning management system effectively. But I tell the faculty that you can upload your lectures. You can actually provide all possible resources to support your class to your students online. We mentioned videos already, obviously various websites, books, all the teaching materials can be provided to the students online that are needed. And then the students engage in a variety of active participation in the learning process. So students can, for example, I'm teaching a class for a university in India, and my students use WhatsApp, which is social media. This is another benefit of the hybrid or online method, because if you can integrate social media into your class, you actually tap into a lot of enthusiasm and familiarity on the part of the students, because the students, as we know, of this generation are actively involved with social media. For example, when after the first presidential debate here in the United States, I woke up and noticed that there are 112 messages on the WhatsApp platform because the students were exchanging comments about the election with each other. So using Facebook, Twitter, other forms of YouTube, that students actually are very familiar with those platforms, and if you can integrate them into your class, then you take advantage of their excitement and enthusiasm and familiarity. You can have the students engage in group projects. They can easily work with each other online. They can have chats with each other, discussion boards. You can have the students make online presentations. And one of the another great benefit of the using the online education is that students who typically do not speak in class do participate. And so instead of only 10% of students participating in class discussion, you can get as many as 100%. Another advantage of online and hybrid learning is that the students can engage with each other, and you can actually create a community of learners. So, and the faculty member becomes a facilitator of that learning, but the burden of the learning process is on the student himself or herself. So you develop this community of learners, and the students become they feel much closer to the teacher because the teacher is interacting with them in less formal ways. The teacher is not simply lecturing. The teacher is facilitating and supporting the learning process through all of the different activities. So I just wanted to close by saying that there's a silver lining to this cloud, that the coronavirus pandemic is a shock to higher education all over the world, but this shock is in fact bringing about lasting and permanent change that actually is for the good, because students are now learning to work as members of a team. They're developing soft skills, communication skills, technology skills that they otherwise would not develop. So in fact, they're becoming more employable than they were before. And this shock is especially evident in developing countries like Iraq, where I'm working. But it's having positive long-term benefits, both for the development of that country in terms of technology, but also in terms of the quality of education that the students are receiving. So thank you for your attention.